Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 203K in the Box FHA Consultant Training and Marketing System All-Power Team Coaching Call for October 2013. Thank you so much for all of you being on the call this evening. This is your host and creator of the 203K in the Box system, Catherine Hall, welcoming you on tonight's call. And we actually have a special guest who I will be giving the screen and control of the mouse to a little later on in our presentation, Ryan Osborne from InspectorPro Insurance Company. It's the company who I have for my insurance, and we actually are very excited to have Ryan on our call today. And as you can see on your screen, this is the website for his page. So I'm going to ask everyone to please self-mute because I'm getting some feedback from someone. So if everybody could just self-mute, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Before we actually start having Ryan share with us, and I'm going to try to give Ryan as much time as possible, at least a full 35 minutes, I promised him. I want to go over some information for you that's new and exciting, and that is that the National Association of FHA 203K Consultants is born. We launched it at Casey O'Malley at Inspection World. And we have been getting a lot of interest from people. I met with some lenders over the weekend at a conference in Washington, D.C. The National Association of Mortgage Bankers 100th anniversary convention was held in Washington, D.C. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And so I got to see some people there. They actually are giving us a membership in the NAMB, which is really exciting. I've also been asked to have a booth at the upcoming National Association of Real Estate Lending Brokers. I forget the letters for that, the acronym for that. They're having a convention in April in Atlantic City, and I've been asked to have a booth and actually speak about the NAFHAC and how we are working to increase the professionalism of the world of 203K consulting. So this is the NAFHAC website, and even though all 203K in a box are automatically eligible for membership, and as long as you are a member in the 203K in a box coaching program, your membership is paid for you in the NAFHAC, in the National Association of FHA Consultants. But that being stated, we still need you to register. Now, we were going to register you all, but I felt it would be better if you registered yourselves, and we want you to put in your information. It's very simple, and here's the information about what type of membership you are. If you are a 203K in a box member who has not yet attained your FHA approval, you will be a candidate member. A certified member is someone who is on the FHA roster, and a consultant engineer membership is for an approved FHA consultant who's completed over 100 projects or more. If you are certified, then you'll need to put in your FHA ID number, and then when you hit submit, it will send the information to us, and then once we realize that you are a 203K in a box member, we will automatically put you in as your membership will be complimentary for as long as you are in the 203K in a box program. But you do need to do this. We will be sending out confirmations, and we'll be asking you for a photo, because a JPEG picture, because we're going to be sending you an electronically created photo ID that you can print off, as well as a JPEG logo for NAFHAC, and it'll say certified member or candidate member, and it'll have a nice round seal. We're working on that logo now. I didn't like the one they sent me, so I'm asking for another one to be created. So we talk about our community. And we are going to be having a new blog, and more information is going to be added in here. And this is how you'll be able to find a NAFHAC consultant. We're working on doing it by county, in every state, as opposed to a zip code, because zip codes are very difficult to do. And we're working to provide information for lenders, home buyers, homeowners, and everything that has to do with the world of FHA 203K. FHA 203K. The word I'm looking for is, our mission statement is that we are in the business of promoting consistency, competency, and community in the world of 203K consulting. So please, I'm encouraging all of you to register yourself immediately and start letting people know that this is one more way that you stand out from your competition as a member of the National Association of FHA Consultants. So I hope you will all please take an opportunity to go to NAFHAC.org. You received an email from Jess with that information for you to do so. The other thing that I want to talk about is, again, upcoming events. We are scheduling a lot of upcoming events, one of which is we're going to be at the Inspection World in Nashville, and we're going to be doing a 203K Day of Discovery in April in Orlando. We are also working to schedule one in December in Los Angeles, and we're also going to probably be doing another one in Denver in May. So we are dotting the country. I might even be sneaking up to Chicago area. It's such a huge market that I might be sneaking up there into the Chicago area to grow our database of consultants by having a 203K Day of Discovery in the Chicagoland area. I hate winter in the north, but I know inspections are slower up there in the winter, and they probably be very, very excited to have information about an additional revenue stream. God bless you, an additional revenue stream that they can take advantage of. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about, is where we're going to be at. And if you have if you think that you will be interested in participating, and Jessica's going to be changing this link here so that when you click it, it will give you all the different dates that you can register to attend the Day of Discovery. So she's working on that right now. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about upcoming opportunities for the 203K Day of Discovery. Another thing that I want to tell you that's coming up is we're going to be having next Thursday night at 9 o'clock a 203K FAQ on 203K. It's a gold call-in, and it's basically going to be an informational session specifically geared to the people who we met at the Casey O'Malley Inspection Conference, at the Korea Convention in California, and at the Atlanta Convention we did in September in Georgia. As an FYI, kind of like an open call-in, but people can ask questions about and get more information about 203K. And in that call, in that coaching webinar, I'm really going to focus on challenging FHA home inspectors. I'm going to challenge them to do two things. One, to join NAFHAC as a home inspector, as a candidate, and two, to take the 203K challenge. And the 203K challenge, we launched that challenge again at Casey O'Malley, where we had 45 people in a room, where we had guess what, a box lunch, okay, definite pun intended. So 203K in a box had a box lunch, and in that lunch, I had 45 people who knew nothing about 203K and were stunned to learn about the opportunities that are available to them in the world of 203K consulting. So what we did for those individuals who were a little bit hesitant about what 203K could provide for them as an opportunity, what we did was we have a 203K challenge. And that challenge is what I'm going to offer next week when we have the gold call-in, for home inspectors to go back to their communities and reach out to the lenders in their area to find out, is there an opportunity, if I were a 203K consultant, do you think that there would be greater opportunities for us both, you as a lender and me as a consultant, to do more business? And as we enter the winter time, I know a lot of you have been very busy with your home inspection businesses, but things are starting to slow down a little bit. Now is the time to ramp up your FHA 203K activities. So you can do that by going to the Power Team site and entering the password. And scrolling down, and if you haven't already done so before now, click the link that says 203K Consultant Forums, and click again the link that gives you a list of the FHA 203K lenders. Now, we were surprised and actually really excited by all of the lenders that are in the states that are hungry for 203K consultants. I can't tell you, actually we have I think we have our new members, some of our new members on the call today, and one of them is Tim, who actually made a phone call and contacted a loan officer. I believe he did this right while he was at the conference, and the lender was like, oh my gosh, I wish you, please hurry up and be a consultant. There are only 2 in the area, and I don't like working with either of them. And so he's like, this is a great opportunity. So, for example, you just put in a state, in this case Alaska, and I don't have a zip code for Alaska, so I'm just going to put the state and then just put 203K. Okay, and let me go back because I didn't put a good enough range. Let's say a 65-mile radius. And these are 3 lenders who are actually have physical offices in Alaska, in Anchorage, Alaska. Okay, so they are 1, 2, 3 in Anchorage, Alaska. And do you notice one of them is Academy Mortgage? Well, Academy Mortgage is the lender who we have a very unique and special relationship with, as you all know, where anytime there is a 203K in a box trained consultant available for an Academy Mortgage loan officer to work with, they will use us over any other available consultant. And so this person here, Dalton Clark at Academy Mortgage in Anchorage, Alaska, will be the person who our new member will be reaching out to once he gets certified to provide business opportunities for him and to increase his business activity. So as you can see, you've got the email of the person, a phone number, and in many cases you've got mortgage@wellsfargo.com. So I'm not sure. This is at Benson Boulevard. If this were me with no actual name of a person on the email address, I probably would just simply call the number and ask for the lender who does the 203K lending. Give you guys a heads up. Wells Fargo Bank has a directive that if a loan officer is doing FHA 203K originations, they cannot do any other type of origination. They do nothing but 203K. So you want to find out who in their office is doing 203K because they're not doing any other type of loan. This is definitely a person you want to network with. Okay, so I noticed that a lot of people, and then so once you've done this, you're going to get the name of the lenders within a certain radius who actually are originating the mortgages. In addition to that information, what you want to do is you want to also go to Google, and this works really well. I did it with a coaching member on a recent one-on-one coaching call. You want to type 203K loan, I can't spell, loan brokers in, let's just say, Brooklyn, New York. And so you've got Newtown Home Loans. You've got Mitchell Feldman, who is an agent financing and doing 203K type loans. My mortgage broker told me of a 203K loan, so here's one here. Elaine D. Stroman, mortgage broker in Brooklyn, New York. So look at all these Brooklyn, New York FHA 203K loan officers. There is no reason why every one of you can't find a brokerage that's advertising that they do 203K, even in Portland, Oregon. The list will be long. So you have Renovation Ready. Don't use them. We've got Portland, Oregon mortgage brokers. You've got Oregon Mortgage Blog. You've got 203kcontractors.com. Don't worry about that. These contractors. You've got a 203K broker here. Rehab Loan Network. Mark Madsen. Zip Realty. 203K Loans. A Zip Realty realtor, Jeremy Firschleiser, who lives and works in Portland. So this is the person who's marketing himself as a real estate agent who wants to work with 203K loans. So these are people you want to reach out to. Absolutely go on and type in 203K real estate agents in, let's type in Bluff, Akron, Ohio, just to pick a state. And so here you've got names of real estate agents who are saying that they do 203K. The Great Akron area. So these are people who you actually can reach out to and say, I notice on your website that you talk about your activity as an Ohio real estate agent who does FHA 203K products. I'm a 203K consultant, and I have a great real estate office education training and also a presentation that we can give for groups of home buyers. Would you be interested in partnering to do a home buyer education at a local church or community center or through the nonprofit counseling agency in your area? So now's the time to beef up your marketing, because in doing so, you will see the clouds to rain 203Ks, not just in the near future, but for months to come, especially in the spring when the real estate market booms back up. So please take advantage of this opportunity to be able to grow your business by reaching out to people through those who are advertising in Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, and other social media networks and opportunities. And please don't hesitate to share and forward the 203K in a Box monthly newsletter to these individuals so they can get all the benefits of that information coming from you. So now the next thing I want to talk about before we transfer the meeting activities over to Ryan is something that has to do with our 203K activities. I want to talk about the importance of clearly setting and managing expectations and providing information to your clients early on in the process so that you do not have to have a whole lot of interaction with them, and miscommunication through verbal communication. And the best way to do that is when you create your feasibility report or your work write-up, or when you are getting ready to do a draw, send a written letter via email that explains everything that they need to know. So now, for example, if you look at your screen, what you're seeing here is a letter that I sent the client. Now that date is automatically populated. This was not done on October 30th. It was done, hang on, let me see when it was done. I did the initial consultation on October the 9th, 2013. So now on October the 9th, I sent this letter to the client. Now what I want you to pay close attention to are a couple of things. One, I clearly pointed out that this is a preliminary inspection report. I also pointed out that this is not the report that would be used for the processing of the loan application, so that if they forward it to somebody else, and they will sometimes thinking, oh, I'm done, I'm going to give this to my lender, and the loan officer comes back to you and says, well, where's the initial draw request? Where's the consultant's identity of interest? Where's the permit and certification? Wait a second. If you look at the cover letter that came with that file, and they may not, you will see that this is not a final work write-up. It's a preliminary report. And I described that before we can proceed to the step of completing the final work write-up, I will need you to review and make any changes to the scope of work presented in the feasibility report, and we will also need past well and septic inspection reports. Now, at the consultation with the client, there were some details missing from his architectural plans, and I needed to have that information provided. And here you can see I'm telling him everything I need. All right, so here we say, and I gave him some suggestions. I did not see reference to hardwood flooring in the proposal from the contractor, but remember you mentioned this was in your plan. And I wrote, might I suggest to assist with cost savings that we keep the carpet line item as per the proposal. When it comes time to complete the flooring, if funds are available in contingency, if funds are available, we can alter the scope of work from carpeting to wood flooring. So here's where I'm managing expectation. I've told them what this report is. I've told them what this report is not. I told them the things that I need in order to complete the final report, and I basically said that once I have received the above item, I will complete the detailed work write-up, and your payment for these additional forms will be due in check or credit card. So the client now, almost a month later, all right, about 3 weeks later, is just sent an email to us saying, I'm having trouble finding someone to do the water quality and septic inspection. Well, why didn't you call us 3 weeks ago? Actually, I offered it to him at the time of the inspection. He said he knew someone. But he can't go, the real estate lender cannot come back to me and say, why have you not done the work write-up? Well, I haven't done the work write-up because I haven't gotten the things that I need from the client. And so this is where I wanted to show you how you need to manage the expectation of your client early on. So how do you use this information? How do you create this form? Let me go back to normal tools. What I did is this, and it's a little bit complicated, so you can do it one of two ways. Let's say I'm just creating a new letter, okay, so we'll just basically copy his information, edit, copy, paste. All right, so let's say I'm doing a new letter. You can do it one of two ways. You can have your verbiage as canned wording in a Word document, and then you can just go to your letter and copy and paste it. I like to stay within the confines of the Rehab Estimator software. So what I have done is under my liabilities, okay, where it says choose your liability statement, I have created additional liability comments. And as you can see, there's a revised, there's a cover letter statement where it says before we can proceed to getting contractor bids. And I talk about, now this actually has gone up. The contractor bid meeting was $75 a while ago. Now it's $175. There you go, I saved that. And so I have it as a canned phrase. So now I'm going to ask Jessica if she will remind me to send you all, to put this information on the Power Team sites of these boilerplate cover letters that you actually can then copy and paste into your liability statement, and then all you have to do is just take it, copy it, close that out, go to your create letter, go to letter, and then paste. So that's why I try to keep it within the confines of the Rehab Estimator software. You could always go out to a Word document, and that's probably how we'll send it to you in the form of a Word document. And you can basically just click something that you want to, looking for some sort of wording, and just basically open up a section, copy it from that, go back to your Rehab Estimator if it's the proper statement that you want, and there it is. So either way, either is canned paragraphs in a Word document, which is how we will send it to you, or in the liabilities section of your Rehab Estimator software. Please get into the habit of creating a letter. So now let me show you what the actual final product looked like for this customer. That was for General Mercer. Now, this was an excellent client. He had a contractor. He already had his architectural plans. So what you're looking at here are all of the architectural drawings for the project. And here is the feasibility report. Now, as you can see, the feasibility, that cover letter precedes every other thing. I used to put it behind the first page of the feasibility analysis cover, and then I realized people were not reading it. Now, this lender, Centennial Lending Group, brand new, found me by just Googling 203K Consultants in PA, saw all the references to me, called me up, and now she is delighted with us. But I put that cover letter in front of the actual feasibility report. There's the minimum property standards. There's the feasibility analysis. And as you can see, all the information here. And there you can see all my cost allowances. The total work write-up, $250,000. Love it when I get a big job like this. So my total fees that I will be receiving for this project will be, once he completes it, $3,265. He already owns the property. He's doing a 203K. He actually does not own the property. His father bought the property, so to get it off the market. And so now he is buying the property from his father with the 203K, and he's going to pay his father back for the purchase of the home and be able to have the 203K renovation loan. So we have a 10% contingency. I didn't put 20% only because 10% is $25,000. That should be more than enough money for this project, even with the $250,000 scope of work. So as you can see, all our line items, the neighborhood values for this area are in the $500,000 mark. I believe he's purchasing it from his father for like $78,000. The house will be easily mortgageable in the $400,000 or $500,000 range. And it was created by, the house was made by the architect who made this house was Frank Lloyd Wright. And you can see that straight line design and the Frank Lloyd Wright high windows. So we're going to be doing a whole lot of renovation to the property. It had underfloor heating pipes, which were completely leaking, so we're replacing that with central air conditioning and cooling. But you can see this home was built by Frank Lloyd Wright. It was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright with his dome windows. A fascinating property. Look at these amazing skylights. It will cost too much money for him to reproduce these skylights exactly as they are, so he's just going to go with a flat skylight ceiling. And this is going to be his bedroom. We're going to be putting insulated glass, a finished floor, and this is going to be a bedroom. So this is going to be a fantastic property when it's completed. We had carpenter ants, termite damage, a lot of wood-destroying insect infestation, water entry, water damage to the ceilings, a whole lot of activity going on. But you see the report, feasibility report includes the digital photo albums for the project. Okay, so please remember to get into the habit of doing a cover letter that clearly defines what needs to be addressed, so that people aren't calling you up, people aren't saying, well, why is my report not done? Well, your report's not done because I still haven't received this, and this. Okay, so always bear in mind the importance of clearly managing your client's expectations so that you look like the professional who is always on top of the activity and not behind the ball. Okay, so before it is 9:27, so before we actually go into our conversation with Ryan, I just want to open up the lines and ask anyone if they have any questions. We are not going to have our focus points tonight because we have a guest speaker, and usually focus points are in our individual Power Team calls of Power Team Innovator and Power Team Achievers. I can let you all know that we have added to our ranks 10 new 203K consultants from all around the country, and we are very excited and honored about that. And I just also want to thank all of the 203K in a Box members who attended our coaching call. For those of you who do not know, the COA inspection conference was a huge success, so much so that we had bowling night, and at our bowling night, for those of you who were not there, the winner of the bowling tournament was a 203K in a Box member, Don Matthews from California. Okay, so now this is something that we definitely want to get you all involved in, and so we definitely will have our focus calls, our focus points, when we have our individual coaching calls. So now there's a question from the floor, which is trying to set a coaching call. What is the secret call, please, or phrase? Let me unmute you. Carl, what exactly are you asking?
Sorry, what is the secret code on your website?
Okay, if you go to the password for entering the 203K website is...
No, the coaching section.
Oh, okay. It's written right there on the link, right below the link. So here, I'll show it to you all, because we have new members, so they would benefit from this as well. Thank you for asking, Carl. So right there where it says schedule private coaching call, there is the secret code right there underneath it. But if you've already had a coaching call in the past, then your secret code was changed by you to whatever password you made it on the on that full slate. Okay, so now we are actually booked all the way through. So next opening is on November the 1st. So if you wanted to have a coaching call for Saturday morning, what you do is the secret code is 203K coaching. Okay, if you are first time registering, or if you are already a member and you're looking to sign in, then it's your own email and password that you created, and if you forgot your password, you can request a new one by doing it yourself. Okay, Carl?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm all set for you're now going to talk to me Friday.
Oh, you took a call for Friday. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
As long as it wasn't early in the morning, because I just found out that my assistant Danielle booked an 8 o'clock consultation from me on Friday morning. So if you're doing it before 8 o'clock and you want to have it as a Skype call, it would have to be like 6:30 a.m. because I'll be needing to leave at 7.
Right, well, it's actually 8:15.
Okay, well, yeah, because she just booked it, so I didn't get a chance to update it. So can you do 6:30, Carl?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, well, it's for 8:15, but if you want to make it for after that, you just give Jess a call tomorrow and let her work out a scheduling time for you. Okay?
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, great, perfect. All right, so I'm going to open up the call lines, and then we're going to have Ryan on the phone. David, how are you? Good to see you in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it was good to see you too.
And thank you for being on our bowling team. And we also have our bowling champion who actually owns a red ball. Hi, Don.
Hi, Catherine. How you doing?
Good. How many strikes have you done since you've been home?
Oh, I didn't have a good night Sunday night, but I held my own.
Well, you didn't have a good night because you bowled, what, 18 games at the bowling tournament?
A bunch of them, that's for sure.
We were all impressed with your string of strikes. What did you do, like 8 strikes?
I had 7 strikes in the game, but not in a row, no.
For those of you who don't know, he was a great disappointment to me because he was trying to bowl a 203, and he didn't.
Close.
We were trying to bowl what you get, a 198, right, on your
190. Yeah, 198.
On the tournament game, but you bowled over 203 on the qualifying rounds.
Yes.
So yeah, so Don definitely represented for us on the bowling night with his 203K T-shirts. We're absolutely delighted. Thank you so much, Don.
Awesome.
Okay, we'll be seeing you in December when we come to Los Angeles.
Absolutely, you will.
Yes, yes, indeed. Glenn Lozelle. Hi, Glenn. Glenn, you there? And we have Jamie Miller. Hi, Jamie. Welcome. You're unmuted, Jamie. And John McKnight. Hi, John.
Good evening, everybody.
You're going to
How you doing?
We have a coaching call coming up, don't we?
We do on Friday.
Excellent. What time is it scheduled for? 4:30 in the afternoon, I believe.
4 o'clock your time, 1 o'clock my time.
That's perfect. Yeah, I have nothing on the schedule for that, so we're good to go for that. Excellent.
I just want you to know I passed on your 7 o'clock in the East Coast time coaching session. I passed and went a little later in the day.
Okay, you got one for later in the day. Good job. Excellent. Good. I'll be more awake. So will you. Because what's that? 3 a.m. for you?
It would have been.
Well, I would have been very impressed that you took that time slot. And Jonathan, how are you in lovely Denver?
Doing really well, actually. How are you?
Very good. Business booming?
Yeah, actually it is. It's a little slow this week, but it's picking up. So
we've been hearing that a lot.
Nice.
A couple members have been saying that it seems like the bottom dropped out for some reason and things are slowed up again. But I'm expecting it to stay sharp, to stay popular with the 203K program. So just keep plugging away.
Yeah, actually, I'm predicting some more work coming in for 203K, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Wonderful. Excellent. Keep us attuned. Jamie Miller, Donna, his wife, actually is on our call, and she just typed in that she's here, but she can't seem to talk with her headphones. So we want you to work on getting a headset microphone, Donna, so that you guys can talk interactively during our coaching calls. So glad to have you on the call, and welcome back, Donna and Jamie Miller. Next we have Tom Mitchell. Thomas Mitchell is getting ready to send his packet off to FHA Hawk Center in Philadelphia. He got a 110% score on his knowledge assessment test. Way to go, Thomas. You getting your packet ready?
It's already ready and packed up and should be mailed out tomorrow.
And we're mailing it certified, registered, return, receipt requested.
Yep, all set.
Because everybody can tell you, those who didn't remember me saying that, how much trouble they had, and I had to step in and make a phone call. So don't forget that. That's so important. I can't even tell you why. It just is. And we have Tom Wilson from Pennsylvania State College area. Hi, Tom.
Good evening, Catherine. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Very well. Very well.
Excellent. So the weather holding up for you out there in the middle of the state just like us here?
Yeah, it's been nice here the last couple of days.
Yeah, no rain, so we're going to hold on to that for a while. And it's been pretty decently warm in the middays. Excellent. So welcome to one of our new members, Tim Sharp. He joined us from the COA Inspection Conference. Tim, what part of the country are you from, and give the name of your company? Tim, there you go.
Sorry, trying to unmute. Oklahoma and Sharp Inspections.
So do I get to sing? No, I won't do it.
Oh, yeah, please don't.
I'll do it on a private coaching call, okay? I won't go into a rousing chorus from Carousel right now on the phone call. You guys might all hang up, and we want to give Ryan a chance first. And we have Tommy Orr. Hi, Tommy.
How are you doing?
Excellent. And how are you? Good to see you in COA Inspection Conference.
I am well and been busy. I had 5 jobs since I've been back.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, that's a good thing to hear. Way to go.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all so much for being on the call tonight. And I want to basically now introduce our guest. And our guest on the call tonight is Ryan Osborne of InspectorPro Inspection Company. And this is an amazing firm. They're actually InspectorPro insurance program is underwritten by one of the world's leading insurance providers. They have, as recently as 2010, they had $4.32 billion in revenue. They've been in business for over 125 years. They have a U.S. and international operations base, and they are rated A and A+ by AM Best and Standard & Poor's. This is one of the strongest, most solid companies that can work with us as 203K home inspectors. And they have their claims managers have administered and defended claims for property inspectors and other real estate service companies for over 20 years. And they have been specializing in the real estate field for well over 50 years. I personally use them and have used them for the past 3 years, and I'm just sorry I didn't know about them sooner, because as a multi-inspector firm, I thought I had to pay huge fees for my insurance protection, and I was delighted to find out when they gave me my first quote. I met them at a COA conference, and I just said, okay, well, let me just see what they can do. And I said, is that per person? And they're like, no, that's for your company. And the number they quoted me, I was used to paying per inspector, and that was the rate for my entire firm. And they are a 203K covered. They do cover for our activities as FHA 203K consultants. So I am so delighted to have Ryan on the call today. And Ryan, I'm going to unmute you. Ryan, would you like me to make you the presenter at this time?
Yes, please. That'd be great.
Excellent. Hang on for 1 second. Let me take that over. All right, Ryan. And you are the presenter. And give it a second, and there we go. Ryan, please take it away.
Perfect. Thanks. Good to be with you guys this evening. I guess what I would say is I could spend a lot of time talking about my company and what we do and try to pitch you on my product and all those things. But I think Catherine did a wonderful job of that. What I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about risk management. And that's what I talk about when I go out and speak to inspectors throughout the U.S. is just how can you limit or mitigate the risk that you have with what you do. I don't know if you're going to leave the microphone open or not, Catherine.
I did. I left the microphone open so that people can ask questions. So if anyone has a question, we have their experience at being self-muted. So if it's okay with you, Ryan, can people just unmute themselves and ask questions interactively, or should they wait till the end of your information?
No, they can ask a question as we go through it.
Excellent. Perfect.
Okay. Right as I joined the call, someone was asking what's the difference, or was mentioning that they had general liability as opposed to just people are having E&O, and so I got 2 slides that I added during Catherine's presentation to talk about what the difference is between the 2 coverages. E&O, as you can see on the screen, is basically what we refer to in the business as professional liability, and it's going to cover you if you make a mistake, whether you forget to say something, you forget to report something, you don't see something, and it's brought up later that you missed it. So it's for some professional miss, basically, that you've had. General liability is actually a policy that would cover you for bodily injury or property damage that you caused or your actions or inactions caused to a third party. So let me give you a basic example of each of those. Miss would be that you forget to report or you don't report that the roof has a leak in it. A general liability claim would be if you have your ladder up, because you're getting on the roof, and someone rounds the corner, trips over your ladder, breaks their leg, and a bodily injury. The general liability policy would respond to that.
Now, would general liability cover us, Ryan, if we were, say, walking on the roof, and while walking on the roof, we stepped on some shingles and the shingles broke?
Correct. Right. So I talked about a bodily injury claim that you could have. Catherine's bringing up actually a property damage claim. I'll actually share 2 or 3 examples as we get through the slide deck about how of some other general liability claims. But you're right, you're talking about property damage that you caused to in this case, the home, which is a third party. It's not your property. I hope that makes sense to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Quick agenda. I'm going to run through the items really quickly that I talked about that I think you should do because I think you guys really want to talk about the examples. All right. One of the biggest things that I say and tell people is you should have as an absolute must that you have a signed inspection agreement prior to you doing the inspection. New Jersey actually has a law that requires for a home inspection that you have it signed 24 hours in advance of you doing the inspection. I would advise you to make that something that you do personally, regardless of where you reside. Okay, what should you report when you report an issue? I think you should report who, what, when, and why. What's the issue? Who should look at it? Licensed plumber, roofers, you can see there. When should they look at it? So prior to the close of escrow or the closing of the inspection contingency window that you have in the contract, and why it might be an issue. If I'm in the room with you, I would ask you right now, how many of you take pictures? And then I would run through a scenario of, or talk about how many pictures do you take? My advice is this on pictures. 1, I think you should take a picture of everything, regardless of whether or not it has a problem. Okay.
Now, there's 2 schools of thought on that, and I know all of our members do create a photo journal of their inspections, and as 203K consultants, I encourage my members to take an extreme amount of pictures for several reasons. 1, it is so beneficial because because with the 203K project, you do not deliver the report on site, nor do you even do it the next day. In some cases, you're not creating the report for 3 days or more from the time you went out there, and a large number of photos will help you be able to review the property and remind you of things that you might not have written down correctly or completely, or just, the camera sees things that we don't always remember seeing. So I recommend people take photos, and also the reason why I encourage our members to take a lot of photos is because it makes a fantastic before and after collage. And also on draw requests, all lenders are requiring photos of all the repair items that are being listed on a draw request. So we take pictures, and I encourage all my members to take pictures, not just of things that are wrong, as you list here, but of areas that are right, that subsequently might go wrong after they move into the property or begin construction.
Absolutely. I mean, I can sit here and tell you story after story after story about pictures and how they can either save you, or the ones that you didn't take, they won't save you. One of the first examples I ever had from someone is he went out and he took about between 250 and 300 photos at every home he inspected. He took pictures of this home. This is in the Northern California area. He took tons of pictures, and it had been staged. And the client moves in, and they call him and say, you have missed this huge 3-foot around area on the hardwood floor the floor is completely damaged, it's water damaged, it's the whole floor needs to be redone. He's like, I don't think I missed that. Pulls up all his pictures, takes them on his laptop, goes right over to the house, walks in, sets the laptop down on the kitchen counter. They point to where the issue is. He says, let's look at my pictures together, pulls up all his pictures, gets to the kitchen area, and shows them right there in that spot. There was a huge potted plant that they had placed right over the area. They just staged the home to try to sell it. And he was able to point out, look, it was I couldn't see it, right? It was a hidden area, and therefore not responsible for it. So there's tons of examples like that, but take lots of pictures. Catherine, you're completely right. Take tons of pictures. You don't have to put them all in your report, but it will refresh your memory every time you look at them of what you saw in the home, regardless, good, bad, or ugly. Okay. All right, a release of liability. Incidents will arise. Everyone knows that. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. And you may want to go out and settle it. I'm going to tell you, I'm okay with that. However, you need a release of liability signed by the client that says, I release you from any further liability that could arise from the inspection that you did for my home. They need to sign it before you give them any money. My take is no signed release, no cash. And it's got to be the release. If you're just going to write on the back of your check, by cashing this, it releases me from any future claims, it won't stand up in court. You actually need that release.
And we actually have a hold harmless agreement that we have the client get signed and notarized before we will release the funds.
Wow. The notary is great. It's just an added layer of protection for you. But yeah, have them sign it.
And
now,
if anybody would like a copy of that, just basically send Jessa an email and we'll be happy to share it with you.
One piece of advice I'll give you, if you're going to go out with a release, my advice would be, if you're going to go out and negotiate with them and say, look, I'm willing to pay up to, let's say, $1,500, but I'm going to start at $500. Why don't you have a release that's printed up for $500, $1,000, and $1,500? You go out there and you say, look, this isn't my fault. I don't have any liability here. As a show of good faith, I'm willing to give you $500. No, how about $1,000? No, they take the $1,000. You pull the $1,000 one out of your binder or whatever you carry and hand it to them for them to get signed and notarized. You don't give them time to think about it. You don't give them, I'm going to send it to you an email in 2 days or mail it to you. They've got it right there. They can take care of it. You can give them the cash and you're done. And you kind of caught them in that moment as opposed to letting them think about it for a long period of time.
That's a great idea.
Okay. Report quality. I am all about a report that gives you more information than less information. One of the problems that arise for us to try to defend you is when you have a report that's basically just a checklist. I inspected it. So so you can see there. You're just marking it as it's okay or it's present or inspected, as opposed to something that goes into more depth. And there will be some more examples of that as we go forward. Okay, the inspection process and quality of what you're going to report. So report on what you can see and you actually inspect. Disclose what you did inspect. This is huge. Tell them, in this case here, we had a claim, it's in New Jersey, the inspector could only legitimately view one level of 3 levels of a roof on a property because of, in this case, tree branches were obscuring it. He didn't say anything about the second and third level. He just said the roof was okay. And then he gave no indication about that he didn't go on the rest of the roof, didn't look at it, couldn't see it, didn't inspect it, didn't anything.
Okay. Ryan, could you get closer to your speaker? Some people are having difficulty hearing you.
Absolutely. Is that better?
A little bit closer.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So if you're not going to inspect it, you need to disclose it. You need to tell them, I didn't go in the crawl space because I couldn't find it, or this hole is too small, or whatever the case may be. And then, as well, if you think that it ought to be looked at by another professional, tell them. Hey, I'm on the roof, it looks like there's some issues. I would advise that you have a roofing professional look at this prior to the close of the inspection window. Don't report on items you're not required to required to report on. Let me, the piece of advice I was giving here is this.
We have a question, Ryan?
Sure.
Ryan, so are you saying that an inspector has to limit his or her inspection according to their state standards of practice?
Yeah, let me answer this way. I say that the inspector needs to limit their inspection to what they've agreed to inspect in the inspection agreement. So if your agreement says that you're going to inspect by ASHI standards or New York State standards or whatever they are, then you need to inspect to those standards as opposed to deviating from it. I'll give you an example. I was out at a meeting, and it was an ASHI meeting. I can't remember where it was, but the guys were talking about inspecting appliances. And either in their state or at that time, ASHI was like, you don't have to inspect appliances. But half the room was doing it and half wasn't. I don't have an issue whether you're going to inspect them or you're not. What my issue is don't say in your inspection agreement, I inspect ASHI standards, and then deviate from that standard all throughout your report.
Because doesn't that open you up to liability for if you deviated it in here in this one position, why didn't you deviate someplace else? A lawyer could hit you up with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so if you intentionally want to exceed the SOPs, should you go to the extent of detailing everything in your agreement that you plan on inspecting?
Absolutely. There are a million ways that you could write your inspection agreement to include all the things you're going to inspect or to exclude the things you won't inspect or whatever it is and anything in the middle. You just need to stay true to it from the agreement to the report and how you act. Because just like Catherine said, if you deviate, then the question becomes, well, you deviated in the master bathroom on that item, but you didn't deviate in the other two bathrooms on that same item. And the inconsistency is what the lawyers will latch onto, and they win.
Yeah, I had that problem when I first started doing home inspection because I was an electrical engineer, practicing engineer 20 years ago, and so I knew electrical code backwards and forwards 20 years ago, and so I would be making comment about this is against code, and a friend of mine was an attorney and said, stop that. I said, well, I know I'm right. He says, well, unless you're specifically saying that the electrical code is the only code you will be providing information on, a lawyer will say, well, if you reported code on electrical, why didn't you report code on plumbing? And why didn't you report code on general building if there's an issue that comes up that's against code? And so that's why they tell you never say code unless you're going to be purporting yourself to be an authority on all codes in all areas.
Okay, let's talk quickly file documentation and records retention. You should keep everything you see on the screen here, all your correspondence, reports, agreements, photographs, and everything, and you ought to keep it for quite a while. The normal construction defect standard in the U.S. is actually 6 years, which is typically where a home inspector is going to fall in terms of what they're going to come back on you for being liable. So I would advise you keep it at least 6 years.
Question on the things you should keep. Are you saying that any correspondence between a client and an inspector should be kept for that long?
So I'm just going to clarify here and tell you that you're asking an insurance guy who documents everything and keeps everything if you should keep it. But to say that, if it's not pertinent, if you will, or absolutely necessary, you may not need to keep it. If they're saying in there, like let's say they signed the agreement, they asked you for a septic inspection, and then later on they want to take it off. You need to document that, and you got to document it for who it comes from. So, for instance, let's say that the client agreed to the septic inspection, but later on the agent called you and said, "Hey, we don't need the septic inspection." Well, I would follow that with an email to the agent and the client saying, just to confirm, Mr. Smith, your agent said you don't want the septic inspection. Is this correct? And let them respond to you. So you need to be keeping anything that you think might be germane to that inspection as a correspondence.
Okay, thanks.
And for those of you who are using Inspection Support Network, you can put those comments right there in the file, and it's retained by ISN for 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah, absolutely. There are, ISN is one, and there's other software offerings out there that will capture some of that data for you as well. Okay, let's talk about a few examples.
Sorry, I have a quick question on agreements.
Sure.
If we use your, I actually got a quote from you today, as a matter of fact, on liability insurance. Do you also offer a thing where you check over our agreements?
We can look over your agreement for you. We can also give you some examples of agreements out there of different items that we like. But at the end of the day, I'm going to advise you to consult an attorney to make sure that it works for your municipality, the statutes and codes that are within your state, and just the way that business is done where you are.
Because I know in Florida I've got to get mine done because we've become licensed and they've just changed the rules again, so there are some things I've got to take out.
Right.
Things like what you just said, washing appliances now we've got to take out because we now have to inspect them.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So those things, I'm going to tell you, here's what I like to see as an insurance company and dealing with claims, but in terms of what's going to be legally allowed and acceptable in your state, I'm going to point you back to an attorney that can advise you on all of that. All right, let's talk really quickly about a release. I had an inspector, I forget the state, I think it's in the Northeast, but he had inspected a home, the water heater was bad, he actually went out of his pocket, paid for it, never got a signed release, and now I'm handling a second claim. This is the second claim. If you look closely, you can actually see that that wall right there, and I'll try to, this wall right here, is actually leaning to the right. And this is a shot from inside up in the attic that actually shows you. This new 2x4 is plumb. The old one is not. So that's basically a, 6-foot rise, and we're getting almost a 3.5 inch to 4 inch gap there. So yeah, we went ahead and settled that claim to try to help the house come back into plumb. Get the release signed. It will save your bacon down the road. These are just a few examples of reporting and what reporting might look like. Here you see here the toilet wasn't tested. Why wasn't tested? The water is off to the house. You may have a summary page, but here they're just kind of listing for each thing. The water's off, the water's off, the water's off. I would include a paragraph somewhere that says, if you want me to test it, you're going to have to turn the water back on. You may have a fee for going back out or not. That's just up to how you do business. But you can see here that this is what that person did. Look, here's the exterior lighting. It's exposed. I advise you further investigation and correction as necessary by a licensed electrician. And again, just some additional documentation that talks about this is what the limitations are for the attic, and here's what's reasonable from what I'm able to see. Okay. And finally, this one I threw in for Washington State. Know your requirements. Know what you're supposed to do, and then throw it in there. This one says, I'm not going under an exterior deck with less than 5 feet of clearance.
It's 10 o'clock.
Let me just skip through some of these. Let me talk about following standards. We talked about standards. Let me talk about it. And in Arizona, there's no requirement in the law for a home inspector to inspect a retaining wall. The contract for this specific person excludes retaining walls from the scope of inspection. And the inspector affirmatively stated there's no retaining wall on premise. Okay, this is what he wrote in his inspection. And this is what he saw. Let me show you that picture. That's from the back side. This is from inside. Sorry, that one's covered up a little. Let me see if I can show you those.
So by making a statement that there were no retaining walls, he actually reported on retaining walls.
Absolutely.
So he should have just said nothing.
Exactly. Or actually inspect a little bit more and said, you know what, that is a retaining wall. Because this is outside the wall, and this one over here is inside the wall. Let's see. Where if you're familiar with Arizona, a lot of the houses have these brick walls. But you didn't go outside the property and see if it was a retaining wall. And this is what you would have actually seen. This is how much sections of it have moved. So the inspector could have said it was just an ornamental wall at the back, but he didn't even walk around it to say, was it a retaining wall or not? So,
okay, our definition of retaining wall is not what I see in these pictures in Washington. So this to me would be a fence. A privacy fence. Yeah. Because
right.
It's not holding back any dirt. It's not holding back soil. It's not a retaining wall.
Right. That's what I was about to say. This is more of a brick wall, not a brick retaining wall.
Right. The only thing I would say is this. If you were to walk around this, you can see right down here, there's actually something that's allowing the water to escape, to weep out. And if you looked at the elevation difference between the two, he should have at least noted there is if but slight, an elevation difference. That yeah, I would have called it a fence, but if you looked at both of them side by side, you would know that it actually is retaining some dirt.
So now my question is this: it is a brick wall of some sort, retaining or not, and it has displacement. But in the agreement in Arizona, he does not have to report on a retaining wall. So he said there was no retaining wall. There is a brick wall of some sort, but
right.
If he says it was not a retaining wall, did he not report on the offset condition of this brick wall?
He didn't report on that at all.
Okay, so basically he should have either, what should he have done? Should he have said, while not required to report on the condition of retaining walls, I did observe a wall with some displacement, have evaluated? Yeah. Is that what he should have done?
At least report on the wall and say there is some displacement. It may or may not be a retaining wall, and you will want to have a engineer or some other professional look at the wall and tell you yes or no, it's a retaining wall, and actually, yeah, it's moving or not, or whatever the case may be.
Okay, I get it. All right, thanks, Tommy.
It just becomes a CYA, right? You need to cover your bases and say, okay, this is what I see, and this is what I'm reporting on. And if I'm not the expert in it or I'm not supposed to report on it, then actually let them know. There may be this issue. You should consult with another professional on that.
Now that you pointed out the fact that it has the two different heights of ground level on both sides, I couldn't tell that from the pictures. Yeah, it would be a retaining wall on the bottom part and a regular brick wall enclosure on the top. So, yeah, it's a retaining wall at the bottom.
Right. Okay, let me look at this one really quick. This inspector reported on this. He says the grading is nearly level to positive, slope it away from the house. So we agree with that in the front. Maybe not so much in the back. These are two pictures of the back. Here you can see there's actually a little rise right here, and it slopes down towards the house, in my opinion. He says there's no evidence of ponding or standing water present at the time of the inspection. And then he does say in his report there's a slope at the rear of the house and it has a swale. Let's go to the next slide. These are the slides that show underneath in the crawl space of this same home. Catherine, you mentioned take tons of pictures and review them afterwards, and I agree. What you can see, first of all, into the piece of the part of under the home where the addition was, it's small, it was blocked, and you couldn't get in. And he actually calls it out in his report. He doesn't say anything about the damp insulation that was hanging down, nor, actually, way over here, you'll see it, there's a mud line that runs along the ground here, where it actually shows that the bottom of the house has been flooded. So it was flooded in the past, and it was damp, so it would attract termites. Doesn't report on any of it, doesn't talk about the vapor barrier, other than that it wasn't evident. But he doesn't even call it out. So my advice is you got to look at the pictures afterwards, because you may notice something that you didn't when you were taking them, and doing the inspection.
Now let me ask you a question about this, because in case someone else is thinking about it. Now let's say I did this inspection and I did not report on the fact that all this damp insulation, all these obvious errors, and obviously this was a claim that came back. What would be the process that would take place when I would submit this claim to your company? So I get the claim. It's a big claim. It's not just something where I'm going to feel comfortable just dropping $1,000 or $2 to make it go away. I'm going to bring it to your attention. What is the process at this point? What happens?
Yeah, so you submit the claim. Initially, someone's going to talk to you on the phone. They're going to gather some just basic information. You know, what's the story? What's going on? Who's the claimant? When did this happen? And then they're going to ask you to send them your documentation. Send me your inspection agreement. Send me your report. Some of those other things. When those things come in, we're going to gather some other pieces of information from our file that just relate to your policy and different things like that. We package it all up together, and we get in touch immediately with the insurance company. The insurance company then takes it. They assign a professional adjuster to it that works for them. The adjuster then begins to work through the investigation of it. Are you liable? What did you miss? What was missed? How much do we think the claim might be for? Are they asking for $20,000 or $25,000, whatever the case may be? They'll work through all of that, and then they make a determination of liability. Along the way, they're going to make a determination of coverage. Do you actually have coverage for what they're claiming is wrong? Then once the determination of liability has been determined, they're going to work with the claimant to basically say, hey, we do or do not accept liability for this. In this case, let's say you absolutely miss it. You don't report on it. The insurance company is going to call up and say, they're going to try to defend you to some level. Is there a limitation of liability in your agreement? Or did you somehow report on it, or do standards remove it, or whatever? They're going to try anything they can to get you off for as little as possible. But at some point, if they determine you're liable, they're actually going to make a settlement offer. If they can defend you on the liability, they're going to keep going down that route until they've exhausted that.
Excellent. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, let's see here. Okay, let's talk about a few general liability claims. You're inspecting the master bath, you fill the bathtub with water, you leave the bathroom, you go check on another area that's adjacent to the bathtub while the tub is filling, and it overflows on the bathroom floor. I am a firm proponent in that the process matters. I think if you walk into the bathroom or the kitchen, you turn on the water, you don't go anywhere until you're done. You turn it off, you pull the plug, and then you can leave the bathroom. But that process matters. So inspectors will ask me, do I inspect, do I walk around with the client, or do I do it afterwards? Or how do I manage that? And I say, you need to do it how you're comfortable. If you're comfortable with them walking around with you and you can maintain that process and the standard way that you do things, then have them walk with you. If you're not, and you can't inspect with them walking around with you, then have them there at the end, or however you want to do that. But you need to do it within your process, and it needs to be the same over and over and over and over. So this claim here, I don't know if I sell it. Yeah, the water runs for 30 minutes, and it cost me $60,000 to replace its kitchen cabinets because of all the water damage through the ceiling onto the kitchen cabinet.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch. And that's a general liability claim. So back to your example, Catherine. Up till now, we've talked about E&O examples. This is a general liability example. Okay, we'll do another one. The general liability inspector enters an attic, moves the suitcase to gain access to the attic. There was a fire extinguisher on the other side of the suitcase on top of the cabinet. Fire extinguisher falls off onto the tile floor, cracks that piece tile in two places, and discharges itself into the cold air return. That was on, blowing extinguisher dust into every room in the home. You can see some pictures here of dust everywhere. This one on the right here is actually, it's already cleaned up. This is the layer of that fine extinguisher dust on
Ouch.
Yeah. That was a good one too. Second war story. An inspector is inspecting a condo. He enters the attic, to look at the attic space, look at the underside of the roof and everything, even though he doesn't need to, because in a condo we know that anything inside the paint is owned by the HOA and it's the responsibility of the HOA, but he wants to do a good job. He steps on the fire suppression pipe that's in the attic space and breaks it. Water runs through that pipe for 15 minutes as they wait for the fire department to come and shut it off at the shut-off in the closet. $130,000 in damage. General liability, not E&O. Here's some pictures. This is the pipe right here that he stepped on and broke. And you can see, this is down in the apartment, you can see they pulled all the drywall off the ceiling. Here's the drywall off some of the walls. Anyway. So that's just a couple of the examples. I know we're over time.
They're used to it. They're used to going over. Oh. So don't worry about that. They're used to us going into 10:30. But let me ask a question.
I have one last question, if I could. I have insurance with you, and on my last renewal, which is currently ongoing, did I need to identify that I'm a 203K consultant?
That was my next question to talk about
for that renewal.
It's always nice, but it's not necessary.
Well, that was my question. Yeah, the E&O coverage for 203K.
Yeah, so the E&O that I have for my company for legal and insurance investigations will cover the 203K consultant?
You're getting into a little bit more depth with that question, and I'd have to dig in a little bit just to make sure, but I've never had a problem with 203K.
Okay.
In other words, because the important thing to note is that as a 203K consultant, we are doing the activities of a consultant and not exceeding it, nor purporting ourselves to be something that we're not. Because a lot of 203K consultants will, to help a borrower understand what the role of that consultant is, will sometimes, and wrongly so, guys, don't ever do this, but sometimes you'll say, well, I'm going to manage this project for you. When you say the word project and manage in the same breath, that opens you up to liability that is not covered under your E&O or general liability protection.
Right.
Correct?
It becomes a completely different policy to manage a project.
So you are not overseeing the project, you are not managing it, you are merely providing consultation and inspection services of work while being performed during the course, before and during the course of a renovation. Correct, Ryan?
That's correct. In essence, it becomes a, if you will, a more in-depth draw inspection, that you're reporting on the current status to the bank to help them manage that loan process.
Correct. And I was litigated against as a 203K consultant and was protected because I clearly wrote, I clearly just did not ever state that I was managing this project, that the contractor was the one managing his own project. All I was performing was construction draw inspections to document payments to the contractor for work he was completing. So it's all about the words in anything we do. But to really flesh out Tommy's question, all of our members in 203K in a Box are 203K consultants. Do they need to provide you any proof of that, FHA approval or anything to make sure that they are covered for their 203K activities with your company?
I would love to see it so I can add it to my file and have it on file, but it's not 100% necessary. I guess what I'm saying is it's a nice thing for me, but it's not necessary.
Okay, well, gentlemen and ladies, I think it would, if you are looking to explore InspectorPro or already have them, and I'm actually, well, I don't think it'd be self-serving for me to do it. If you would put in your system that you were trained and certified by 203K in a Box and that you are members of the National Association of FHA Consultants, it will help in your defense if Ryan has to have an attorney represent you, that he can pull this information out to support your credentials and your qualifications. Correct, Ryan?
Absolutely.
I've got one more question, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
as home inspectors, 99.9% of us have got written in our agreement that our maximum liability is the cost of the inspection. In all reality, how would that stand up in a court of law?
It depends on the state that you're in. I think if I heard correctly, you're in Florida.
Yes.
And the limitation of liability does stand up. However, you need to consult with a local attorney to make sure that the way that you've worded it and the total limitation is acceptable in the contract that you have. And the example I give on that is this. There are some states that require that you have it in Times New Roman, the font is size 12, and it's bolded in your agreement. I don't know what those states are, but an attorney's going to know. A limitation of liability will work, and here's how it needs to be worded and written.
Excellent. Okay, Ryan, keep going.
Keep going.
We have a couple other questions. Hang on for a second. We have a question here from Donna Miller. It says here, the subcontractors need to answer to contractor, not consultant. I have had the subcontractor contact me in a recent project trying to ask about how are they being paid. I told them to make sure they are strict in communication with the contractor. Okay, well, this is something that is not pertinent to the insurance issue, and what I would suggest that you do is schedule a coaching call with me so that we can go over this in depth, because this is something that we have covered in recent calls that we need to go into more. I can go into information about. All right, so I was reading the question live without pre-screening it, so that doesn't apply to you, Ryan. Keep going. Keep going.
Okay. One of the questions asked earlier was about correspondence and what you keep, what you put in, everything. The situation that I talked about where the agent called and canceled part of the inspection, which was the septic, was actually a live inspection, a live scenario that I was talking about. The agent did do that. Where the inspector got sideways on all of it was he did two things wrong. He charged the client for the septic at the time, but didn't catch it until the client called 4 months later and said, hey, you never did the septic inspection, and then refunded his money. And the second thing he did wrong is he never documented the file to anyone or even to himself saying, the agent called me and canceled this, and this is why this is what they said, this is why I'm canceling, and somehow put it in the file. I live, as an insurance professional, I live in a world where we document everything. If I call a client on the phone and they want to have a coverage conversation, do I have coverage for this? Do I not have coverage for that? I will document that and put it into my file so that I have it for later when they call back and say, we never had that conversation. I will say, we spoke on Thursday, the 30th of whatever, at this time, and this is what was said.
Excellent. Okay. So now that person sued them because the septic system went bad, and the person said, you just didn't do it. Nobody told you not to do it. And, of course, the agent's going to say he never said that.
Right.
Got it.
At the end of the day, as an inspection professional, you need to kind of think about, even though that agent may send you a lot of business, if they need to, they're going to cover themselves and not you.
Okay. Okay. Excellent.
So a couple takeaway items. What you do and how you do it matters. So I tell guys, and I think you ought to do it the same way. If you walk up to the house, you should do the same thing every time. I spend 30 minutes on the outside, and this is what I look for. Or I go inside first, and I do all the inside inspection. And when I go in, I always start in the living room, or I always turn left from the door, and I work my way left around the house, and I finish coming from the right, kind of thing. You need to do it the same way every time so that you know where you're at in your routine if you get interrupted. Secondly, take more pictures than is necessary. Catherine talked about it, and I tell you the same thing. Take as many pictures as you can and then some. I take a picture of all four walls in a room every time I walk in, just to begin, and then I begin inspecting the home, because at least it gives you that baseline of this is what the room looked like when I walked into it. Prime example is I had someone who took about, 150 pictures of a home. They were in the granny apartment down in the basement. They went in. The bathroom was beautiful, pristine, brand new tile, perfectly painted in white, very well done bathroom. They took 3 pictures of the bathroom. About 3 weeks later, they got a call back from the client saying, this bathroom is covered in mold. There's mold everywhere. You didn't inspect it. We're coming after you. And he went back to his pictures, and sure enough, the timestamp was this pristine bathroom. Takes him over and just says, here, this is what I saw. There's no mold in this bathroom anywhere. I mean, he had pictures more than just the 3 or 4 pictures of the bathroom. He had pictures under the countertop. He had pictures of the shower, everything. Take more pictures than you think. You don't have to include them in your report, but they'll save your bacon later.
Yeah, we've actually...
I have a question.
Go ahead, Tommy.
You made mention of timestamp photos. How important is that?
Not super important.
So you're basically what you're saying is you don't have to necessarily timestamp them as long as they're taken during the date of the inspection and not some other time?
Absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't matter if you're going to go back and take a picture of the property later on. Just figure out if you're going to document it or say, you know, somehow that you can delineate and say these were taken of this property. Typically, you're going to take them all at once, right? So you're going to capture those through. They're going to go from 100 through 250, and you're going to stick them all in a folder, document all of them. These are, I don't know, 123 Main, you know, something.
Yeah, we actually, you know, and you learn from mistakes that you make. We actually, all of our inspectors now, we take a picture of the bathroom and kitchen sinks, all the sinks with the water running, with the cabinet open, showing that there's no leak under that area while the water is running. Because we had a situation once where the person said, well, you never looked underneath the sink to see, and it was leaking. And so, you know, no one has to slap me on the hand more than once before I'm going to make a procedural change to prevent it from happening again.
That's right. Like I said, take pictures, document everything. I'm a big proponent of not hurrying. Take your time, get it right. The
Excellent.
extra 15 minutes that you take in a property are not going to ruin the rest of your day and throw everything off.
Fabulous. So Ryan, if someone is looking to what do you look for in a home inspector as far as providing coverage? Is there anything? We have some new members in our group here. Is there any minimum amount of experience, number of years, background? Is there anything that would preclude an individual from getting coverage?
The only things that would preclude you from getting coverage would be if you have zero training. You have no background and you have zero training. Most inspectors that we look at and see have some kind of training, whether they've taken it from a professional association or group, from their state, whatever the case may be. So they've got that. Most of them will have some kind of background in homes in some form or fashion, whether they were in construction or something like that. But in terms of having a minimum amount of experience, we can actually work with most people who have little to no experience. We just will look at some of those other items and underwrite the file a little bit differently for how much experience they have and where it came from.
Excellent. Is there anything different that you do with a single proprietor as opposed to a multi-inspector firm? Is there any documentation information that should be, or a company that uses uses subcontractors as opposed to actual inspector employees? Is there a problem or issue with that?
No, there's no issue or problem with using subcontractors as opposed to employees. I'll be candid with you from an accounting or tax standpoint. Most of you are probably going to say, hey, we're doing them as subcontractors just because of the way you pay them and the way you recognize revenue. I'm not the tax man, and I'm certainly not the U.S. government, so I don't really care how you do that. So I will actually have a conversation with you about what kind of work do they do, who else do they do it for, do they do it for themselves or just for you, do they wear your shirt, do it on your agreement, and do it with your letterhead. If those are the things, then technically I'm going to refer to them as an employee because that's kind of how they're acting. Again, I'm not the tax guy, so don't worry about me from that standpoint.
Excellent.
But
Thank you.
Then I'm just going to evaluate that, each one individually, and then say, okay, are they trained? How do you oversee them? And what kind of exposure does that give you and therefore me?
Okay, excellent. Does anyone have any last? A question has risen by a member, Ryan. Does your company offer workers' comp insurance?
We do not. We are a specialty insurance company, so we do things that are a little bit different and off the wall. And what we found is workers' comp is actually better served by you in your local state market. I'm happy to point you at a local agent that might be able to help you, but we don't actually do it.
Excellent. Okay, so if you are looking for that, just Ryan can refer you to someone in your local market. So Ryan, can you put up your contact? I see your contact information in the bottom. Could you say it out loud for people who are listening to this audio on audio only?
Absolutely. You can email me at rosborne@citadelus.com, which is spelled CITADELUS, like I'm Sam.com. Or you can call us directly at 801-610-2705. And you can reach us on the web at www.inspectorproinsurance.com.
Does
One
anyone?
more question.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Do you have key personnel insurance?
I probably have a market for key personnel. So if you wanted, you could give me a call on that, and we can talk about it offline.
Okay.
Key man life is basically what you're referring to.
Right.
Yeah. Now they call them key people, key persons.
Yeah. Anytime you lose a key personnel, whether they die or get injured and can't work, there's some kind of typical coverage for that.
That's an excellent
I just didn't
question.
know.
Very nice. I didn't know that they had that offering either. That's excellent. Thank you.
I don't know if he does or not. We're going to get offline and talk.
Find out, Tommy, and tell me. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
right.
And that's something that everyone should be considering. So is there any last-minute thoughts that you would like to share with our members, Ryan?
I would say this. I would love for you to write insurance with me, but you don't have to. My advice to you is to get insurance with me.
That was one last thing I wanted to share. There are some states that do not require a professional liability insurance coverage to provide the service in their state, and there are people out there, individuals in this industry who are saying don't get professional liability insurance because it will only lead people to sue you. That if you don't have it, you're less likely to be sued. I am of the exact opposite school of thought. Better to be protected than to be totally exposed. What is your opinion where states, I mean, obviously you sell this policy, you're going to suggest people have it, but is there any logic to the thought that you're going to be more likely to be sued if you have insurance?
There might be in states where it's required, not necessarily in every state, but in some of the states where it's required, there might be a slight difference in the number of claims that are brought versus not. Now, I look at insurance, it protects basically two ways. It protects you as the professional in this case, right, that you did miss it, and it protects you from loss that you might have personally. It also protects your client, because what if you did miss it? And it is a $45,000, $50,000 claim that needs to be paid, and you don't have insurance? Who pays it? And who makes that individual whole? So it really is a protection, not just to you, but to your clients. And for that unfortunate situation where insurance does need to step up and take care of the issue.
And it's such, and your company makes professional liability insurance and general liability insurance so reasonable. Now, you also provide general liability insurance policy for those companies that must have it for termite treatment, termite inspection services, and you are very, very liberal about the wording of the policy as needed, because in some states like Pennsylvania, I have to have a license to be a practicing pest applicator, even though we do not do pest applications. You guys were able to provide me coverage without having to have a very expensive pest treatment protection. So I want to basically just say this to anyone who does not have professional liability. Give them a call. Find out what their quote would be for your company. Find out just what a true professional, as a true professional, you should have this type of protection, and they make it very attractive to have that peace of mind. And they go out of their way, like you said, they do things a little bit on the edge, a little different than the norm, and they make things work in a way that is absolutely unbelievable as far as how reasonably priced it is and how very successful your coverage can be. Because we do termite inspections only. We no longer do treatments. And we only charge $75 for a termite inspection for our area, and to have to pay tens of thousands of dollars of coverage for the fact that we have to have a license to treat, even though we're not, we were able to get InspectorPro just had me type a letter saying, while we are required to carry a license to do treatments, we do not do treatments and will only be using this policy for inspection purposes. And they were fine with that. And everybody else wanted me to get this very expensive policy. So my comment to you all tonight is give them a call. Get them to do a quote. Their quote application form is a simple little form. It's not like a lengthy document you got to go nuts with. Get them to at least quote you to find out what your options are. If you can't afford it today, put it in your budget for 2014. Have that peace of mind. Protect yourself, protect your clients, protect your family. And again, it's also, especially in states where it's not required, it is a unique selling point that you do have this protection. And I believe your coverage does provide a referring entity endorsement policy, Ryan?
Absolutely. Any referring party to you will actually have coverage if you make the mistake. I'm not going to cover them, I'm not going to cover the real estate agent for a real estate agent mistake, but I will cover the real estate agent if they get wrapped into a claim of something that you did and they referred you.
And many times this is a reason why many real estate agents use me over my competitors, because of that additional endorsement. And I actually show them the paperwork saying, look, if you refer, and this helps eliminate that need for the real estate agent to give out 3 names. They only need to give out my name as a direct referral, because they're fully protected against any possible exposure for making that direct referral. And that is huge in this very competitive market, to be able to say, yes, I might be a little higher in cost, but when you refer me, I'm going to protect you from litigation to the limit of coverage that I have. Is that not correct, Ryan?
That's true.
So does anyone have any last-minute questions for Ryan? Ryan, thank you so much for being on our call tonight. Thank you for allowing us to reschedule it. We were in Las Vegas last week and couldn't be able to do the call then. And I want to thank all of you for your involvement in the call tonight. Ryan, I think you've gotten some really great questions.
Absolutely. This was fun. Love to do it again.
Absolutely perfect. And I just want to thank everybody for being on the call this evening. Our next call is going to be on November the 14th. That is Thursday evening. That's Power Team Innovators. And I will wish you all a happy and safe Halloween tomorrow night. Watch out for those kids. Drive slow. Keep your lights on. And just be safe tomorrow night. And I will see you all. The Power Team, the success supplies will be posted onto the website, and you'll get your email on the November 1st, and the mailing will be going out over the weekend. I rushed back here to Pennsylvania only to find out I forgot to send the stuff to the printer. So I'll be getting that off to you guys. But the e-newsletter and the success supplies will be available to you on November 1st through the website. I thank you all so much for being on the call. Before we actually end our call, Jessa is on the line. Jessa, is there anything that you'd like to, let me unmute you. Jessa, is there anything you'd like to share with anyone this evening? Are you okay tonight? What's going on in your world? Jessa's having trouble with her mic, she says. Okay, but Jessa wanted me to say she enjoyed. Jessa, you there? She's having trouble. She's typing in that she enjoyed meeting so many of you at the COA inspection conference. We walked around Las Vegas wearing red. We were the red ladies in red all week long, so we had a great time. And we want to really just say thank you to all of you for all of your support. Please register your NAFHAC membership as soon as possible so we can get you your materials out in the mail. And please take a chance to look at InspectorPro insurance program, www.InspectorProinsurance.com. Ryan Osborne, I want to thank you so much again for being on our call tonight. And everyone, you're unmuted. Good night.
Good night, Catherine.
Good night, Catherine.
Good night, everybody.